my hero, my mentor, the great Dick Trickle, who's not with us anymore. Dick Trickle flat told me to my face, quote unquote, that Kyle Busch is a racer. He came to Wisconsin. Maybe he said, I think it was Slinger.
It was.
And he's okay. You really impressed the great Dick Trickle, the greatest of all time in my book. He said that you knew your race car and you were working on your race car. What do you think about that when I tell you one of the greatest racers of all time says that you, Kyle Busch, you're a racer because you were into your car, under your car, working on the chassis?
Oh yeah, no, I remember the super late model years that were most fun for me, and going up to Slinger, and we went up to Kaukauna, we went up to Madison. We did a lot of Wisconsin racing, and of course, Dick and the Midwest Tour and all those guys were from around that area. So I actually knew Dick Trickle a little bit beforehand, obviously just following NASCAR and seeing him race in the Busch Series and the Cup Series and everything else. Youngest rookie of the year ever, by the way.
Yeah, 40.
But his brother Chuck lived in Las Vegas, and his nephew Chris Trickle was racing out in the Southwest Tour and racing late models and stuff like that on the West Coast scene, and was probably one of the next West Coast guys to make it big to go into NASCAR. But unfortunately, he was shot in a drive-by shooting and never raced again. But that moment was actually the turning point for the Busch family and our stature in Vegas for Kurt to get into that Southwest Tour car that Chris was driving, to take it over, to run that 70 Star Nursery car and run it to multiple wins and a championship. And then that was the moment where Kurt got the call from Roush to go run in the Truck Series. So like there's a whole connection there with respect and everything that we've had through that family and what they've meant to us and us being able to get to the big leagues. So, you know, to spend some time with Dick when we were up in Wisconsin and to have him say those kinds of things to me, you know, it was always fun to talk with him. You know, there was always a coffee in one hand and a cigarette in the other. But if it was after the races, it was a Coors Light can in one hand and it was a cigarette in the other, you know. So he was, I tell you, man, he was tough. He was one of the Iron Men of the late model world, the ASA world, you know. And I don't think he ever really got the stats in NASCAR that he probably would have hoped for, but he was one of the best of the early days of all the ASA stuff and was highly respected.
Makes me really happy you talk like that. And you just educated, you just taught me a lot about connecting the dots. Kind of reminds me of our past. We delivered newspapers to a house, and that was Don Miller. And Don Miller knew Roger Penske, and the rest is history.
There you go.
All because of a newspaper route.